There we are.
Hey.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening to you, and waiting on guests to come in, and we've already got a couple people that have popped in. So
Good. If you're watching this, if you're watching us online and you want us to know you're there, please write something in the comments, say hello, and we'll be able to see your name. And we hope you decide to participate in the conversation. Right now, Dia just popped up from Facebook. Thank you. We appear on Facebook and on YouTube. You can listen to past podcasts of us on both of those platforms, but also iTunes. And what's the other one, Iris?
Spotify.
Spotify. My name is Margot Ross Sears. The other lovely lady.
Name. There we go.
She got her name, but her name.
Yeah, I was looking for it. I couldn't get to the button.
Is Iris Carter, who and we co-host a weekly podcast that you're looking at now called Eyes of Indigo. And welcome. We are happy to see and hear our regulars. And if you are a newcomer, you are very welcome here. If you'd like to know more about my background, about Iris's background, and our professional resume kind of information, please feel free to go back to the first episode in the series that we have created. I think we're up to almost like somewhere between 25 and 30 episodes now.
Yeah, so right around like 27, 28, something like that.
Yeah. Go back to number 1, and you can see a short rundown of Iris and I interviewing each other on our professional backgrounds. And you can see more about what kind of intellectual weirdos we are. Emphasis on the weirdo.
Yeah, really.
Yay! And we've got Deborah and Denise and Sherry. Thank you. Hi, ladies. Good evening.
Hi.
So, Iris.
Yes.
Your turn.
Okay, so tonight's show is it's called Bingo 2.0. We were trying to be clever. But we've heard all this stuff, 3D, 4D, 5D, 5G, 4G, and it may sound like call letters from a bingo game, but what are they really? And so we want to talk about magnetic fields, energy fields, and all that. And by no means are we authorities on the subject, but because we're not scientists, okay? But we've heard things that we're going to share, but it's all not speculation either, okay?
We do research, and we are discerning to a large extent.
Right. And that's kind of what we want to talk about is, okay, what, you hear these terms floating around. So what do they mean? Literally. And how does it affect individuals? You. Yeah. You as an audience member. So
as a human.
Yes. And the first thing that I want to talk about, which is sort of a good foundation, is talk a little bit about the science of it, but hopefully it won't be putting y'all to sleep.
This show will never put anybody to sleep. Ain't got time for that.
That's it. Okay. So if you've ever heard of an EMF, electro and magnetic field, that's the thing that like Ghostbusters takes out, not Ghostbusters, sorry. Ghost Hunters. Ghostbusters takes out the nuclear equipment. But like I used to do paranormal research, and we would use EMF readers, and some of them had the Gauss or the EMF, and the Gauss is just a higher rating. It's like the difference between a gram and a kilogram or whatever,
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a unit of measure for EMF. Hey, Randy.
Yes. And And so what is this electric and magnetic field? Okay. Yeah. Field. And so if you think about
sidebar, sometimes people characterize it as electromagnetic frequency.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I always called it electromagnetic field or EMF reader, electromagnetic field, but it's actually electric and magnetic field, which I thought was interesting. I learned something in my research. But basically what it means is radiation. Yeah, thank you for the bell.
You get a bell.
I get a bell. So it's basically radiation. And there's low levels and high levels. There's good radiation and bad radiation. Are you a good radiation or a bad radiation?
What color shoes do you wear?
Yeah. I'll take the red slippers. Thank you.
Red ruby slippers. All right, enough.
Okay. Damn. All right, I'll forget.
That was good.
All right. So, all electronics have some sort of EMF reading, and from your cell phones to your television, your refrigerator, your microwave, computers, your Wi-Fi routers, all of that, and then your X-rays and your MRIs. The X-rays and the MRIs are actually of the high frequency radiation, where the other stuff is low frequency. But when you for example, one of the things when we would do paranormal investigations, the EMF is not just to see if there's EMF activity that doesn't belong there. It's to get a balance of the room so that like if you've got
a disturbance.
Well, an electrical line running through your house. Or even like we would get like high EMF readings sometimes, and you go outside and say, oh, they've got electrical lines going across, or this is where if you run it along the wall and then you run it down low and there's no reading, but along the wall there is a reading, it's because they had old lines running through the house that were giving off energy, and that's just common sense, even because like in older homes where the sheath on the wires gets old and all that, it'll the electricity will kind of come through.
It's not as insulated, right?
Yeah, and it's not like it's dangerous. It's just there. Yes, and Sherry says EMF is everywhere. And it is. I mean, and it comes from the sun. We have EMF from the sun.
Humans.
Yes, exactly. And
humans throw it off every beat of their heart. They throw off EMF. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's electricity. We're electric.
We are electric. We are magnetic.
Yeah. But like there were times where, like, there was one time we were in a shop, and this guy said, well, every time I'm in this area, I feel like there's something here. And we went, and he had a refrigeration unit, a bunch of coffee makers. It was a coffee shop. Bunch of coffee makers, refrigeration unit, two of them, one behind him, one in front of him, cash register, and a laptop sitting there. You think the EMFs are going nuts? Yeah. And what will EMFs do? If you have too many EMFs, some of the symptoms can be problems sleeping, depression, headaches, fatigue, itchiness, lack of concentration, change in memory, dizziness, restlessness, decreased appetite, nausea, a change in the electrical activity in your brain, and paranoia. So a lot of times, if we found
sounds like menopause.
Hey,
pregnancy.
it's an electrical change in the body. What can you say?
There might be something to that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Speculating. Yeah.
right. But what? So a lot of times, we'd say, you don't have a ghost. You just got too much electricity going on over here. Y'all need to create a Faraday cage or something, which I find is really interesting. Faraday cages were created by a guy named Faraday, and it's to block off the
The
EMF.
radiation, to stop
But
the radiation.
he created it in 1836. When was electricity? And I know I need to do more research to find out why he did it. But Faraday was
make you go,
Yeah. What did he know or have?
Yeah.
Or I
mean,
I don't think it was
because the United States was not widely wired or put on the grid until the early 1900s. So if Faraday was building cages in the mid 1800s,
early.
he knew, early, 1836. He knew something about the radiation factor that obviously was not widely known.
Yeah. So, and I know there was things going on. Who invented the X-ray? Wasn't Curie? Was it Curie? No.
No, Curie got hit by X-ray gamma radiation.
Okay. So
she was gamma. That was from decay. Yeah.
So there was stuff going on, but anyway.
Yeah. You could go way down that rabbit hole, but for the sake of simplicity from the beginner level that we're speaking from tonight.
Right. And so from that, there is the feeling that high levels, and some of this, some scientists say one thing and some scientists say another. And I want to mention this. Let me throw this up real quick. A website that I really thought was good. It's called Medical News Today. And I was reading about it, and okay, where do they get their information? They're based out of the UK. That's United Kingdom for you, for anybody who doesn't know.
These acronyms. Come on now.
Yes.
They're based out of the United Kingdom, otherwise known as England or Great Britain.
Right. And they believe in being evidence-based medical reviewers. They have a whole panel of doctors, pharmacists, psychologists, whatever, reviewing the materials that they create articles on and have them reviewed for accuracy before printing. And they don't necessarily say this is the way it is, but what they do is, like with the EMFs, they said, this is what are EMFs? Are they good or are they bad? What is some of the bad stuff? How can it affect my health and that sort of thing? And they do that with like all of their topics, and it's really well broken down, plain English, good information. So I found it to be a good resource. And they're also associated with
thank you. Yeah.
Healthline and GoodRx. Some people know GoodRx because they're the ones with the
discount.
Yeah, the discount
prescription discounts. Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to mention that, but they said that EMFs might present might be possibly carcinogenic. There has been an increase in gliomas, which is a brain and glioma. Sorry, brain and spinal cord tumors. And they typically happen on the same side as people use their cell phones.
The exposure, the exposure comes from.
And so I know we've all heard those stories,
don't stick your cell phone in your bra and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then also an increase in adult leukemia, with increased EMF exposure. The years that EMFs have increased. And so why do I mention all this? And there was something else I wanted to show you.
Because there's two sides to the story, and that is one side.
Yes. And so when you look at, okay, you've got the EMFs, and you think about, there's been stories over the years of these houses being built under electric lines, those big power In fact, I've got them kind of in the distance here, but the huge ones that leave huge paths and fields with the big
Power
lines.
towers. Yeah,
Yeah,
the big giant towers. Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of times you'll find that homes that are constructed in those areas are typically low income families, and then you hear about kids developing cancer, where they have grown up in that area, and they're attributing it to being around all those EMFs because it's an abnormal amount. When you think of that, and then you start getting into the 4G and the 5G, yeah, the 4G,
Sherry made a comment. She says she reports you're not supposed to live within 10 miles of one of those power line towers. Yeah, and we all know that's not how it is.
I got one a quarter mile from me. I mean, it's out my backyard basically. I mean, not over my house, thankfully, but still.
It's a quarter mile. It's not 10 miles, right?
No.
Right. As the population gets more crowded, that's less and less possible. But Sherry, yes, thank you for chipping that in. Absolutely.
So the G's and the 4G and the 5G, it means generation. And so fourth generation to fifth generation technology. And it's referring to cellular networks. And they use radio waves in the higher frequency, meaning, when you have cell, like when you talk about cell phones, cell towers, it's because a cell is a small geographic area.
Okay.
And so the radio waves used in that small area, all wireless, the radio waves connect all the wireless devices that are in one cell area through an antenna. So a cell will have an antenna, and it connects all the devices that are in that area. And then you go from one cell to the next to the next.
Your signal jumps from tower antenna to tower antenna. Right.
Right. And the if the higher the frequency, high frequencies of those radio waves don't travel as far. So you have to have more cells. Right. And 4G devices cannot use the same networks that require 5G devices.
As far as what they've reported so far.
Right. That's
always the caveat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, what they report.
Right. And then then you have the bandwidth. And I honestly, I'm not real good with explaining what that is, but that's like the amount of power, how much. And when the 5G is going to have a larger bandwidth to increase the speed of transferring signals,
which is a feature that cell phone users want.
Right. Yeah. And they plan for it to be able to go up to 10 gigabytes per second. 10 gigabytes per second.
That's thousands and thousands of highly detailed photographs.
Yeah. I mean, think about
just to give it just to quantify what is 10G or 10 gigs, what 10 gigs can be.
Because a gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes.
I do wedding photography. When I ship photographs to a bride, I'll ship about 150 images in large size for printing and small size for electronics. So about 150, so 300 images. only takes up about 2 gigs. So 10 gigs.
10 gigs a
If you-
second.
A second. If you're talking about cell phone size pictures, which are much smaller than printable size, you're talking about thousands of photos in 10 gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then what's going to happen too is with the larger bandwidth, it means networks can serve the internet for computers competing with cable providers. So you start getting into the competition too.
Yeah.
That almighty dollar. So,
Yeah. Industrial competition, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And all of this just means you've got more energy going
Flying
on
through
around
the
you.
air.
Yeah, flying through the air.
Show them the picture. Show them the
Oh,
cartoon.
yeah. There you go.
As Sherry said, it's everywhere.
Yes.
But I don't feel a thing. Man being bombarded by invisible rays, but I don't feel a thing. Cartoon looks like it's from what, 1955? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, something
That's
like that.
very cool. That's very cool.
And then, well, I might as well go ahead and show this one because I thought this was hysterical. Yeah. This one is a man wrapped up in aluminum foil. When you find out 5G is now available in your area, 5G will fry. And it says, not today, cancer.
Not today, cancer. And he's wrapped from head to toe, every finger, every foot, every inch of him. He looks like a human baked potato.
Yeah. There might be something to that.
Yeah. You gotta have humor about this or it'll kill you.
Yeah. Well, and like okay. So I was going to show y'all this, and Margot has one too. This, what did I say it was called? Oh crap!
Oragonite.
Yes.
Oragonite or Oregonite. I'm not sure how to.
Oragonite.
It's Orgonite.
Yeah. And what it is it's like you have the coating to it, but like in mine, it's got Oragonite in it and some other metals and a few gems when you flip it over and that sort of thing. And then Margot's got a really nice version.
It's got a little spiral and gemstones. Very similar to hers. The metal in hers, though, is chipped inside across the top. It's just a different configuration.
But that metal is supposed to help absorb the EMFs. And so, like, I keep mine in my living room where I watch TV, and you can have them stick to your phone. They actually make little sheets or little
stickers.
That you could put on your phone. If nothing else, it looks really cool, but
sure, why not?
Yeah. And so there are ways, and there are other crystals and gemstones that you can just have around your house that help. And if you just do a search for EMF crystals or crystals to help with EMFs, that kind of you'll get a ton.
You'll get answers. Yeah.
And I also want to show this just to tell everybody, because I have shared this before, and let me put that on. This, I've talked about it, but we didn't show it, is a electromagnetic background level. This comes from Russia, from Siberia. Yes, sir, Bobcat Dale. We're
Mother Russia.
But even NASA uses this, okay? So we're more connected than you would think. And it's the Schumann resonance. And what it does is it shows, and I know it's hard to see it on this screen, but it has...
It's showing up pretty good. Go ahead.
The hours and the days. Yeah. And you can, so at any particular time and day, you can see what the magnetic resonance is
for the whole planet.
And so, like, when you have like one of those sun flares or whatever, this thing
Mm-hmm.
will skyrocket. Or if we talked about before that we had
Catastrophic events.
catastrophic events and meditations, like mass
Meditation groups.
meditations with
Mm-hmm.
70,000 people. You can go back and look, and during that
Just through the roof.
meditation time, the whole almost all of it will be lit up,
A
the green
popular
and yellow.
a popular date to go look up is September 11, 2001,
Ah,
between 9 and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, USA. And you're going to see spikes, incredible spikes. Another one was during the tsunami waves that wiped out like parts of Malaysia and India.
uh-huh.
I can't remember when those were, but that's another time that it peaked. And then and then meditation groups that sat through Washington D.C. and brought down the crime rate by 80% while
Wow.
they were meditating. That's a really cool. Maybe we ought to do a show about meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the crazy cool effects that it's had. But all those register on Schumann resonance readings, and they are typically that blue and green that you see there. Yeah, they're typically shown that way.
Yeah. So it's
lately, the Schumann resonance is going up. The average Schumann resonance is rising, like for the last year. I wonder why.
So I just wanted to bring, so that kind of gives you a good baseline for some of the other stuff that we're going to talk about. And so I hope it sort of made sense, or at least gave you a kickoff point if you want to delve more into it on your own. Because like I said, we're, by no means am I a scientist. I'm just sharing enough
Research
to help you understand. Yeah.
Could you roll that Gaia.com?
Yes.
One more source of information recommended by my husband, an avid fan of Gaia.com. He found a wonderful documentary about 5G. And if you want to go in depth with, if you want to research for yourself and get a whole lot of information from authorities really quick, Gaia.com on this particular show, I think it's called Living with 5G. And
living at the speed of 5G with Ben Stewart. And it's on the Open Minds. And I'm going to put it up there. I had it typed up. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if I didn't hit the save button. Maybe. I don't know.
Can you copy paste?
It won't let me copy.
Oh.
I know. But I'll get it up while you're chit-chatting. So
Sure. So it's on Gaia.com on the Open Minds channel. And Living at the Speed of 5G is the name of that particular podcast. Heads up, it's extremely detailed. And it's also, David, my husband, reports it's also a little scary. So feel free to read other stuff that tells you about 5G is not always portrayed as scary as some, let's say, factions want you to believe. There are countermeasures in place besides just the personal stuff overview that you got here tonight. Again, it's in your own time if you feel like checking it out. So thank you, Iris, for rolling that up there for us.
Sure thing.
Absolutely. For those of you that like to dig, go dig. So shifting gears, some of the other bingo letters that are being bounced around out there that people ask us about, that we hear a lot about, are typically said together: 2D, 3D, and 4D, and 5D. And what are those numbers? What does the D stand for? And how does this relate to the human condition? I can tell you that there is debate about what the D stands for: 2D, 3D, 4D, and 5D. And on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 D. Ds keep going up. And there is a 1D as well. And there's D below that as well. The D stands for, most of the time, it stands for either density or dimension, depending on the context of what you're talking about. Those two things are related under certain conditions and certain contexts. So the way I'm describing them tonight, they're such a related context that you might hear me say them, use them interchangeably, because in the context of what I'm describing, they are related, all right? To be a little more clear, a density has to do with your vibrational, which is how it's related to what Iris was sharing with us. The density has to do with your frequency. The faster your frequency, also called the higher your frequency is, the more dense or more densely compact your frequency wave pattern will look like on a graph. All right, so that's a dense frequency because there's more of them. A lower frequency has a slower path, and that's considered lower density. 1D is a lower, slower density than, say, a 5D, which is a faster, higher density. I'll probably be using density most of the time for this conversation. All right, what are they compared to the human experience? The popular teaching among all types of gurus from across multiple cultures, but widely talked about in New Age culture, but not excluding ancient cultures, is that consciousness exists as a vibration, and that typically humans in this day and age vibrate at a third density or third dimension level. That's you and I, day to day, concrete thing, concrete computer. Whoops. Forgot. Don't touch the touch screen. And because it reacts, because I touched it in the 3D. All right. Well, actually, that was a good example. So, the electromagnetism coming out of my finger made the screen jump out. So for me, 3D is your workaday, everyday world of solidness and sound and visible light.
And I think 3D too, where typically, you talk about height, width, and depth, which is where the 3 dimensions come from.
And that would be the third dimensional, yes. Length, width, and depth, meaning how wide something is, how deep something is, and how tall something is. So that's 1, 2, 3. What is it?
Yeah,
1,
I don't remember which.
2, 3.
Yeah. Like paper is 2D because, or drawings are 2D because it's flat, wide and
it's wide and long, but it has no depth. Your screen, you're looking at something 2D. This video is 2D. Mm-hmm. It only has width and height. It has no depth.
Unless you have the funky glasses and the special cameras.
the 4D, 3D glasses, that make it pop out at you, appear to pop out at you. So that's where, that's the dimensional aspect. In terms of density, most people are actually, I'm thinking, Iris, I can trim this down a little bit. Most people are familiar with what is 4D and 3D in terms of, glasses and two-dimensional. 1D is a dot, two-dimensional is a flat plane or a line. Third dimensional is height, width, and depth, like a cube or a ball, and so on and so on and so on. Fourth dimension has even more aspects to it than that. It has a fourth 90-degree angle in a cube, which you can't represent in the 3D.
In the Twilight Zone, a girl fell through the wall into the fourth dimension.
There you go. Yeah, this is a very popular theme. All right. So what is the difference between a 3? Wait a minute, I need to back up. So on this 3D planet, there are 2D, third density. Let's be specific. On this third density planet, there are second density beings and first density beings. Sidebar, more and more fourth density and fifth density beings are coming in right now. By nature, things that are first density eventually evolve into being second density creatures or beings. And those beings eventually evolve into being third density creatures or beings, which is what humans typically are. If you're listening to me, you've been a 3D at least once in your lifetime. And third density creatures and beings become fourth density and fifth density and so on. How long between each type of density varies by what experiences you have, what choices you have, and what is the sort of the standard expectation. Generally speaking, I've read anywhere from a couple of lifetimes to 80 million years, to put it in Earth terms, all right? So, however, the laws of physics and metaphysics are changing. So I can only speak about what I've learned and studied so far. Based on that, what are 1D beings and 2D beings on our 3D planet? Have you ever heard of that? Let's go back from where we are. We're threes, just to give it a label for conversation. We're threes. Plants and animals are two. They're second density. It has to do with their level of consciousness. One density, first density, are elements: fire, water, rock, earth, air, those things. Those are one density beings, first density beings. In the evolution of consciousness, things that are elements, we know them as water, we know them as air, we know them as fire and earth. Eventually, they combine and recombine over eons. They don't have lifetimes. 80 million means nothing to them. But over the eons, they condense and recombine their molecules and eventually become microscopic plants, microscopic animals that are born and die and born and die and eventually become more sophisticated plants and animals. That's where lots and lots of lifetimes and lots of years start coming into play. Eventually, they can, this is based on this, the theories of reincarnation are involved here. Eventually, those second density beings become domesticated at the highest point of their awareness as a second density being. They become domesticated. They become vaguely and then eventually specifically aware of the next step up, which is humans. So they spend time, they share energy, they start gaining karmic awareness, and they eventually decide to switch over. Sidebar, if you have a pet and you know what kind of personality that thing would have if it were a human, guess what's going to happen? He or she or it is going to be a person with that personality and temperament. And because that's what they're trying to learn to do. And that's how they're dealing with the karmic stuff they are experiencing as a 2D. They don't experience karma like we do, but they can observe it. And they eventually will choose to incarnate as a human. So another sidebar, as a psychic, I often get the question, can I reincarnate as a cat? Or can my cat or my dog ever reincarnate as my son or my husband or something like that? Yes and no. 2Ds can become 3Ds, but 3s don't go backwards to 2. So yeah, your pet can become a human, but you will never become somebody's pet. In this train of theory, you've already done that. You've already been somebody's pet. Isn't that cool?
Perhaps they're just missing being that, and that's why they want to. I wish I could be a cat. Yep, you were before.
Iris has got 2 rings. Absolutely. That's exactly where I was going with that. If you wish I wish I had the comfy, cozy, comfy life of a cat, spoiled life of a dog, or whatever. Well, that's because you miss it. That's because you miss it. You've done that. You had that experience. So 2s become 3s. They become humans, and they learn about karma, and they learn how to not have karma. Remember, they go through, amoebic states, and then they go through plant states, and then they go through wild animal, and then they go through domestic animal. Well, humans in their 3D have stages to go through inside of 3D as well. And we call that consciousness, your awareness of consciousness going up and up and up. You're at a survival level when you're at a primitive survival level at the beginning of your incarnations. But over time, you gain karmic awareness, you gain consciousness, you gain heart and emotional attachments. You learn about feelings. You learn eventually not to let your feelings are extremely valuable, but you don't let them run the show. You learn about ego attachments. You learn about heart attachments. You learn about EMF. You learn how powerful you are. You learn that you're actually a type of deity in some vernaculars, but you learn that you're actually a highly intensely gifted spiritual being. And what you do with that determines how long you stay at 3D, how many times you're going to incarnate that way and gain more and more wisdom, okay, for a more typical word. Eventually, a 3D can choose at a certain level of awareness to become a 4D, a fourth dimensional person, or being, I should say, because you're not so much a person, you become more like a being of light, commonly reported by psychics and clairvoyants and clairaudiences. You kind of look angelic, you glow, your whole body is, your face and your torso and arms can look like they're made of light. You look kind of transparent. However, you can phase into a solid body at will in the fourth dimension. But the number one thing is not about your body. It's not about the cool tricks you can do. You can teleport. You can read minds. You can walk through walls and all that other fun stuff. You can communicate without speaking, all that stuff. The big thing, though, outside of all those cool tricks, is you are developing heart. You are developing the concept of love on the cosmic scale of, maybe to put it in words, you're starting to get it on the scale that maybe we understand God to understand love. Absolute agape, unconditional love. You're at the beginning of that on the fourth density. This is not to say that there aren't nefarious people, beings in fourth density. There's a whole nother discussion about how nefarious people can get to fourth density. How can nefarious people be in a density that is focused on just love and unconditional love? There's a way. Whole nother discussion. Has to do with percentages of how much good intention you had, 51% versus 95%, yada, 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 yada. And I'll talk about that in some other future show. But the vast, as you can tell, it's rare, all right? There are nefarious people, but it's rare. It's extremely rare.
And also, nefarious and good and bad are human perceptions.
Those are 3D concepts. What is good and what is bad, what is evil and what is kind, what is just and unjust, those prejudices, ego attachments, those things all pretty much disappear in fourth dimensional
because forgiveness
density.
Forgiveness
is where it's at.
And also, there's really not forgiveness because there's no judgment.
There's nothing to forgive. Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn forgiveness only to ultimately understand that there's nothing to forgive. And for some reason, we can't bypass that even if we intellectually understand it. Bitch. Let me just be honest with you. That's a tough one. 3D consciousness doesn't allow us to skip that step. At some level, you have to still go there.
There's something about being grounded in this earth plane that we have egos, and it's hard to.
Egos teach us so much. They're extremely valuable teachers. However, just like any other teacher that you have to outgrow, once you outgrow a teacher, relying back on that teacher will hamstring you and slow you down from further development. So you have to let go of that teacher and move on. But ego is a teacher in this third dimension, just to give it some visual directionality.
That's good.
So thank you. So in fourth dimension, thank you. All this way, yeah. So in fourth dimension, you learn to come from heart on everything you do, on every decision you make, on every awareness you learn, lessons, everything comes from unconditional love on a profound level that you're not aware, in theory, you're not aware of until you get there. Another interesting aspect about fourth density is that fourth density acts like a doorway. There's a lot going on at 4. It acts like a doorway to fifth density. Very few people stay for very long in fourth density. I say people, I mean beings. Very few beings stay in 4 for long. You can stay as long as you want. Whole universe, for the type of beings we are, is built on free will. However, once they figure out that they can get to fifth density, they usually start taking the fast track to it. Fifth density relies on 2 things, heart and wisdom. All right. To put it in 3D terminology, let's use chakras. It relies a lot on the 4th chakra and the 7th, not 6. 6 is going to help get you from 3 to 4 in awareness and all the things that are wonderful about the indigo chakra. But your 7th chakra, the one way up here, your pineal gland, your heart, and all of the wonderful chakras and high heart chakras and all kinds of cool stuff. Heart math is another way, study that taps into how powerful this particular mechanism right here, this particular mechanism right here actually is. And also the pineal, which is a best kept secret, to understate it tremendously. But anyway, 4th D acts like a springboard, a doorway, a portal into the 5th density. And at 5th density, now you, in theory, because obviously I'm not doing it, I still have it. I'm still here. In theory, you drop the physical body altogether. You stay an energetic body all the time. You are constantly coming from wisdom and heart, and you exist for one purpose. You are in service to others, 100%. Obviously, nefarious people who are in service to self, which is actually a better terminology. Like Iris said a minute ago, there isn't a good and evil. You're moving away from that duality, good and evil, right, wrong, male, female, high, low, hot, cold, dark, light. Those are all dualities. You're moving closer to a unity. In the 5th density, you're very close to a unity. You're still not quite there yet, but you're much closer. And those beings, you can only get from 4 to 5 when you are 100% in service to others. So that means a lot of beings that ascended masters and so on that give us advice, that answer our prayers, that come to us in visions, such as Jesus of Nazareth and archangels and beings like that, started from the 5th dimension when they started helping humans. They were and are 5D creatures. 6D creatures, beings do that as well, and so do 7s and so do 8s. However, what they are and how to get there is so abstract that now we're moving outside of the English language, and I can't really explain it. Not without doing a 6-hour lecture where we actually need to be in the same room because communicating it would require stuff outside of words. But I can explain up to 5. But in the 5th density, that's where a lot of angelics and similar high vibrating guides actually exist, and they are 100% in service to others. And that service to others is the guiding principle for all the other densities going up and up and up. There are theories about how far up it goes. Most people can get a brain wrap on that there are octaves of 8. So we know about first density elements, just to review. First density was elements, elementals. Second density is animals and plants. Third density is humans and humanoids. And 4th density is beings that come from heart, that are in a doorway portal situation to be in service to self or to others. And at 4th density, they have to make a choice of remaining in service to self or in service to others. When they choose service to others, they can move into 5th density, and they completely spend all of their energy and resources being in service to others being all the other souls that are coming up this ladder. In theory, it goes 6, 7, 8. The 8th density is actually the 1st density for the next octave. So our number 8 is the next octave's number 1. So there are octaves down below us as well. Okay. Our first density elemental is octave number 8 is density number 8 for the octave below us. That's one theory. There are other theories that say that they go on infinitely, that there's not separate octaves. You'll hear 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on. And until we get there, all we can do is talk about it and speculate. But in a nutshell, that's what those letters 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D represent. I've been talking a long time. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes, please ask. You've got questions that you can, or underneath, or where, if you ask them, because we can get questions off of Facebook and YouTube, or counters. If there's anything that you're going, well, I heard this, and then you're welcome to.
If you heard a contradictory statement or theory somewhere, we'd love to hear it and discuss it. So feel free to share. If you have any insights. I can also speculate. Remember, I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of 4Ds and 5Ds. There is lots of evidence that right now, a lot of humans to the tune of millions are right now switching from from 4 to 5, are switching from 3 to 4 right now, just because human evolution is at a crucial turning stage at this point in history. So, yeah, you'll see people being absent-minded and staring out in space. You'll see people disappear and not communicate for days, weeks, months, and then suddenly pop back in and say, oh, yep, not sorry, I was just in my own world for a little while. This happened a lot in 2020, sort of obligated, but a lot of souls took advantage of that isolation. And there are some souls that were already 4th D trying to help out that moved up to 5D. So we do have a really eclectic mix of human souls and humans and humanoids on this planet right now. The majority of them are 3. A popular question that I've heard is, can you be part 3 and part 4? Yes. You can switch back and forth. If you're lucky enough to understand experience 4, stay there. My advice, stay there. Fear has a tendency to yank people back into 3. A point that Iris brought up, ego, sometimes will bring us back into 3 after we've switched into 4. And that's just one reason. That's a popular reason.
I think another popular one is the ability to recognize everybody moves at their own pace. And so if you have family and you're ready to move on and your family is going, you're crazy. I have no idea what you're talking about. And they, they're still in the social dissonance stage, and they're going, Mom's crazy. We need to put her away, or, get
Throw
her to
some
a
holy water
psychiatrist.
on her.
Yeah.
Whiskey, booze, something.
Water. Then so then it's like, well, I don't want to let my children go. They need to bring them with me. No, you're not going to pull anybody
You're
with
not going to be able to do that. Yeah, those are karmic attachments. To really, really oversimplify, those are karmic attachments and emotional attachments that do not transcend free will.
Right.
If your family and your children want to stay and keep developing and growing their 3D awareness, then that's what they're entitled to do.
And that's what they need to do. You can't make a 3-month-old hop up and walk. You can
grab his little armpits and make him pretend, but as soon as you let go, he's a sitting tater again.
Yeah, it's not like you got to know the secret password to get in or anything. It's either you're there or you're not. Yeah.
Right. And it's not an exclusive club. Just because some people choose not to do the 4D awareness thing in this life, they are still entitled and have the opportunity to pick it up in another lifetime, maybe even the next one. Where I'm going with this is you'll run into each other eventually anyway. And 4D and 5D people can see and experience 3D people all they want. And again, a free will situation. So it's not like you're going to leave the planet, go to a different planet, and never see the 3D earthlings back in the day. That's not how it works. You'll still remember you're an energetic being that will show up by request. And you can free will go wherever you want. So you'll still have a relationship with these people. It just won't look and feel exactly the same. It'll actually be a lot more intense, but easier, not complicated, much easier, because it all comes from heart. Anger, judgment, insecurities, fears are all gone. So it's actually much more pleasant. You remember in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi was fighting, and he stopped and he held up his laser and he let Darth Vader kill him because he was more powerful, ascended, than he was as a human. George Lucas was trying to tell us something. All through the whole movie, by the way, but just pointing out one scene. You're more powerful and you're more connected and you're more effective. I just said that, didn't I? Yeah.
Effective.
On the other side. In the fourth dimension, other side.
Yeah.
Another popular question is dying the same thing as evolving? Yes and no. Dying, yes. You do leave this consciousness behind. Whether it becomes an evolution depends on how and when you decide to manifest another existence. Do you choose to come back as a 4D, or do you choose to come back as a 3D? Well, if you come back as another 3D, then you didn't evolve that way. But you are a more aware 3D creature than you were before. So the answer becomes yes and no, depending on what you choose after you die.
And your choices are going to be based on if you feel like you've learned enough so that you can plan to move beyond 4D. It's like, do I have enough to really stay here, or do I need to go back and work some more on some of these other elements and make connections? And some people come back to help other people. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Some people do that. They come back to help. But what I've also experienced from talking to people from the other side, plus reading all kinds of books by hypnotherapists and psychologists and psychiatrists that have done past life and between life regressions for on thousands and thousands of clients. When you are in between lives, you also are connected to talking to, working with teachers in the spirit realm. So you're not making these decisions by best guess all by myself. No, you have all kinds of guidance and personal teachers with you walking around helping you make decisions about what is and what ain't. So you're never alone. You're never alone.
If you've ever seen the movie Defending Your Life.
Yes.
That is a huge reveal.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes. That's an excellent reference. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent reference. There's lots of movies that and stories that brings that kind of revelation along those lines, but that is absolutely true. You're never alone out there. There's all kinds of scenarios, and they're different for every single person. Your experience of the afterlife, while it may have similar aspects to it, such as when you first die, you see a light. Some people describe a tunnel. Some people just describe going to a light. Some people describe glowing beings that look like their loved ones and grandma and grandpa and their dog that died. And they go towards that. I mean, you can see the visual similarities, but they're not exactly the same. It is very, very different for every single person, just like life on Earth here is very, very different.
I knew that was coming, yes.
My reality is not your reality. And even though they have similarities, yeah, same is true on the other side. Absolutely the same is true on the other side. So all about the choice. Well, this has been a long time. No comments. Interesting.
I don't know if we've just got them thinking hard, or
guys, are you still there? Did WTF? Did we totally freak you out?
Are you still there? Or are you just being polite?
Yeah, exactly. Are you politely going, what the heck am I talking about? Or are you enjoying this and you're just on a listening mode? That's very much a possibility too. Yes. But but let us know if you're still there. Type us a line and say so.
Yes, please. But to and
crickets, crickets.
We are here. Thank you, Denise.
Denise is a who.
We are here. We are here. We are here.
She's okay, a Horton. Here's a who. Yeah, now I'm a Horton.
We've got for next time. We're gonna cover it's called empaths, intuitives, and mediums. Oh my, who are these people and what do they do? Muggles, witches, energy workers, shaman, light workers. We're gonna sort through the mess and kind of tell you what it all means. Deborah says it's quite the ponderous subject.
Not sure what to think.
Yeah, that's
and Randy
okay.
Is here. You know what? Hallmark for evolving, Deborah, is not thinking. When you start evolving, you stop thinking, and that's the number one criticism for lower vibrating people around evolving people is they're like, have you lost your mind? And the evolving person's reply is generally, well, yes, thank God.
I need to remember that one.
So you're on the right track, honey.
And I guess I should too, just to add a little bit to the end.
Yes.
We talked about, the energy and that sort of thing, because the vibration for the part that Margaret talked about with the different dimensions and what was the other word? It just went out of my head.
Densities.
Densities. Yeah. Density is based on vibration and energy vibration and all that stuff.
Yes.
And there is, just to add one more little layer to give you some thoughts. Don't want to get deep into it, but there is some concern that there are some people who would like to restrict our ability to raise our vibration. And they can do so
With
through
technology. Like, be real, folks. I know you've heard comments about that and references to that on social media. What Iris says is not new to you. We're just saying that there's relativity to those ideas. There's relativity to what we're explaining to you tonight.
And what I find interesting about all this is the more I learn about what some people call woo-woo, the more I see how it's based in the science that we already have. And
science and spirituality are the same thing, actually.
Yeah. And so when you realize
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, if you can have this, somebody says I can't have that. No, wait a minute. You can.
Everything can exist at the same time. It's called planet Earth.
You're Beat already, me up, Scotty.
That's right. You're already doing it, people. Everything possible already exists or has already existed. So
yes,
that is. That's an interesting debate that actually takes time too, because people like to try to throw, what about this and that? And I can tell you how they exist, coexist. But that's interesting conversation that usually takes a glass of wine and a fireside for hours and hours.
Maybe you know what? I'll bring in the fire video and we'll be on each side of it. And
there you go. Have one burning in the middle. I like that. Get some first dimension in there.
Yeah, that's right.
First density. Get some first density beings in here.
You can put your cat in your lap, and I'll bring Sophie, and then we'll have the second dimensional beings. And
there we go. I'll wear my cat ears.
Yeah,
I'll be representative.
But guys, thank you so much for sticking with us and listening, and ponder it, look into it. We certainly can't cover it all in the hour that we have here. So but we'll be back.
Sticking your toes in.
Yes. So we'll be back next week, and y'all have a good one. Yay!
Bye. We love you.
Thank you for joining the Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears, all rights reserved.